Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 894A, and today's date is February 15th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The World Economic Climate Index Indicates the Global Economy is Heading into a Storm. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, here in the U.S., today is President's Day. The market is closed, but we see other markets are still operating, and it looks like today was an okay day. All the markets were up because, as we know, Friday the United States ended the week on a happy ending. They knew it was a 3-day weekend, and of course this is what we see as a pattern. But what's very interesting with gold right now, it has dropped by $30 or so, and I'm expecting that this might drop a little bit more to push it back down, because we see the central bankers right now are definitely giving us some type of message right now that they are pushing this propaganda forward, letting everyone know that everything is fine. And gold, you see, is settling back to where it's supposed to be, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Please place your money in the market. The economy is doing fine. But as we know, the economy is completely falling apart and collapsing at this time. The Japanese economy, well, we know is not doing well. They have a lot of currency printing, and we see Japan's economy has shrank by 0.4% between October and December compared with previous quarters. And on an annualized basis, the economy contracted by 1.4% during this period. Wages in Japan haven't grown more than 1% in any year since 1997, and actually shrank in the last 4 years when you adjust for inflation. So what does this tell us? That Japan's economy has gone nowhere, and it's actually falling apart, as we can see with other economies across the private Western Central Bank countries. And we know that they're pushing negative interest rates. We know they're trying to get rid of currency because this is the only way they can control the situation. And we can see, and we mentioned this before, that the ECB was out there saying, okay, we need to get rid of the 500 euro bill. And it looks like they're pushing the agenda forward right now. Because right now, Draghi is out there saying that any ECB action on the EU 500 note is not about reducing cash. Well, what this really means is the ECB action is only about reducing physical cash, about some 30% to be specific here. And where do I get this number? Well, we realize there's a lot of these bills in circulation. The 500 euro note is the second highest currency denomination in the G10 countries. More importantly, the total value of the 500 euro note in circulation amounts to about 306.8 billion euros and has been rising. And what we're seeing right now is that if they get rid of this, what does this mean? This means this is their way of beginning the cashless society. And we see at this point they went with the higher note because people are still using the other notes like the 20s, the 50s, the 100s, the 10s. And I wouldn't be surprised if the next one to go is probably the 100 or the 50s. And they'll continually do this as time goes on. So what we're seeing right now is we are on our way to a cashless society. They needed to start somewhere, which means this will then move to other countries, especially here in the US, and they will do the same thing. So for the Fed to react to the ECB, scrapping their 500 euro note, what are they going to do? Well, maybe they'll get rid of the $100 bills. Maybe they'll get rid of something else. And this is something that we need to watch out for, because when they start doing this, this shows us that we're heading to the point where, okay, they made the decision, we're going to a cashless society. They start a little bit at a time, and they start taking it away a little bit at a time before there is nothing left and everyone is using the plastic. Now we see that there's a huge amount of oil on the market. There's a huge glut, and this has many different agendas. One is to put a lot of pressure on Russia. Two, if you really think about it, airlines, trucking, deliveries, all the manufacturing to create these products. Having this reduced oil allows them to make more profits. Because what we've seen in the past is that the pricing on all of these products have gone up when oil prices have gone up. When oil prices have come down, what have we seen? Prices maybe fallen a tiny bit, but nowhere near where they used to be at the same time period that oil was at this price. So which this allows companies then to continually make profits, because without this, companies would be a complete disaster at this point. And they know this. So this agenda is, one, they wanted the people to take that oil savings and put it back into the market. Two, companies can continually make profits because of their transportation costs are reduced, the production costs are reduced, and they can keep the high prices on products. And we see that there's pressure being put on Russia, and there's another reason to have so much oil around the world, because when we go to war, a lot of countries now are storing their oil in underground areas, storage facilities. Because as you know, when war starts, it's very difficult to get oil. And this could be another agenda of why they're doing this. United Arab Emirates, they have offered free oil to India in return for a storage deal at India's planned underground facility. I mean, this is how much oil there is. It's kind of ridiculous at this point. And they don't want to stop production, because if they do and oil prices go back up, it's going to be a disaster on the airlines, on manufacturers, on many of the corporations that were depending on these profits. The pressure would be off of Russia, and this is why they're continually pushing their agenda right now. And as we get closer and closer to this economic collapse, we realize that it just can't switch around. We just can't all of a sudden say, okay, the economy is better now. It doesn't work like that. Everything at this point, from all the indicators that we're looking at, everything is starting to fall apart. The global growth leading indicators, they're all screaming collapse. The Baltic Dry Index, PMIs, and others are all telling us something is drastically wrong with the global economy. And then we look at the World Economic Climate Index, and that has declined right now, and basically giving us a signal that the global economy is heading into a major storm. We're heading to the same position that we were back in 2008. We're past that point, and we're moving down further. The world economy dropped from 89.6 to 87.8. And we see the economic climate is deteriorating in all regions. Just to give you some idea of where we were prior to 2008, we were approaching about 120 points. When everything started to slide in 2008, we approached 89 points. And then it dipped down all the way to about 55 points. So here we are at 87.8 points on a downward trend. This does not look good. We're heading into an area where everything is starting to really fall apart, and this is why you need to be prepared. We're seeing these fluctuations in the market. The central bankers are trying to keep control. And you need to prep. You need to get ready for what is coming. You need your food, you need your water, you need your supplies, you need your gold, silver. This is a gift. The prices are being suppressed by the central banks. I would start purchasing some silver and gold. If you haven't, I would start now. I would make sure you have the food and supplies all ready. Because as we know, as the countries stop using the petrodollar, remove the dollar in their reserves, we're going to see a flood of dollars come back to the United States, which will cause the devaluation in the dollar, which means you're going to need more dollars to pay for the products, which is hyperinflation or inflation. And of course, we're going to have inflation. Things will get even worse. The Fed will say we'll have to create more currency, and this will drive prices up because things will really start to fall apart. If you haven't started, you can go to lifereliance.com. They have bug out bags, seeds, water filtration systems. You can customize your orders. But whatever you're doing, I would not stop at this point. I would ramp it up because we're seeing from many different areas, even on the corporate media, that they have to recognize that something is wrong in the economy. And they're coming out saying, yes, it's slowing. We might be moving towards a recession, even though Obama is telling us that we're in a recovery, even though the central bank has told us this is why they raised the interest rates, because the economy has recovered. Well, this is all for political show. This is not what's really happening. What's really happening is every single one of the indicators that we've been looking at through all these reports is showing us that the economy is dying. The dollar is dying. And as time goes on, it's going to get worse and worse. And this is why you need to be prepared. And if you've been listening to me from the very beginning, and we look back over time, look how much has changed. Look how much the economy has changed. Look what's been changing and been going on around the world. Everything at this point, it's accelerating. And it's getting worse and worse. The government, the central bank, they can't even explain it. All their numbers that come out, all the statistical numbers, nobody even believes them anymore. Why? Because they're starting to realize there are major problems. And there is a storm coming. And when a storm comes, everyone needs to be prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.